Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Real Reefing TV. I'm Cody Grates. That there behind me is the 300, and today we're doing some fragging. So first thing you want to do when you're going to get ready to do some fragging is you need to be prepared. So what I did was I got out my fragging table so I don't get anything on my dining room table. Life acceptance factor is a big deal, so make sure that you have a nice surface that you can easily clean off when you're done. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have some glue to glue it to the frag plugs. So then you're going to need some frag plugs. I've got some frag plugs here. These are the Ocean Wonders Coral frag plugs, and they're purple. They also have a smaller base and then a smaller disc on top, which is nice for SPS frags. So they don't take up as much room on the frag rack. The frag rack I have is up in my main display. I've also gathered up a couple of them and put them in some buckets so that when I've fragged them and I've put them on the coral plugs, I can easily organize them and set them upright in here. So I'll put a little bit of salt water in here so that it'll cover the frags once I put it in. That'll help the coral glue to set. Now really the coral glue, you don't have to get Sea-Chem or anything like that. You can go to really any grocery store or hardware store and pick up some gel super glue. That's really all it is cyanocrylate. Maybe I'm saying that wrong or whatever, but basically any gel super glue will work. A couple more tools that you'll need is something to cut the coral with. So depending on what coral you're trying to frag, you want to have the appropriate tools. So I've got a little frag kit here that my wife bought me for Christmas a couple years ago. So they're kind of a little rusty. They're not too bad though. So I've got some scissors and a scalpel with some surgical blades that are brand new. And those are great for soft corals, your leathers, zoanthids, and things like that. So you can kind of snip them off or scrape them or just give them a nice clean cut. Also for propagating anemones. Another thing that you'll want to have is some tweezers. These are great for zoanthids or soft corals that you're going to kind of pick up and place on the coral frag plug so that you don't get the glue on your fingers. You could also use it for SPS to set them on there and things like that. So just a great little tool so that you don't have to get your fingers so close, or that you can pick up smaller items and place them where you want them more articulately. Another thing you want to have is some bone cutters. Bone cutters are great for SPS, and I'm an SPS guy. So these are the smaller bone cutters, and these are great for cutting your just smaller stick-like acros or smaller, more delicate SPS, and just go ahead and break them right off of there. And I'll show you later on, because that's what we're going to be fragging today, is a couple of my SPS. This is a bigger bone cutter. And so what this one's going to be for is cutting your larger LPS corals that are branching, like your torches or your frog spawn and hammers and things like that are branching, because those branches are a lot thicker than you can get this around. So you'll want something that's going to be a bigger, give you, something that's going to be around the size of a couple of your fingers, and you can get on that and crack it down and break them. Now, it's not that big of a deal because there's not a whole lot of tissue. So this serrated edge locks on to the coral skeleton, and then this edge goes ahead and cuts it. So these will come in really handy for that big frog spawn that I have in the back. I've got a couple of branches that are growing underneath, but they're not getting a whole lot of light because the coral over top is shadowing them down below. So that'll be great. We'll get those frags out of there and actually help the coral survive, because those polyps down below there won't survive. They'll get overshadowed like they already are, and they'll end up dying and wasting away. I'd rather go ahead and frag those, sell them for $5 a pop, and make a little bit of money so that I can go buy some more coral or maybe some new lights. on the tank. I'd love to put some radions in the front there to match the back. All right, so the Miami orchid that's right in here, right in the front, it's kind of the brownish with the purple tips looking one. That's the one we're gonna be cutting because it's got this green Passalipora right behind it. So we're gonna take off about half of it. Go ahead and zoom in here. Ooh, it's hard to get in here. You know what? What we're gonna do, because I can't really see from the front and frag, I'm gonna turn off the flow. That way the top water is still and I can see right through it like glass. It'll give me a better view to be, to kind of know what I'm cutting. All right, so now I can see what I'm doing. Let's go ahead and get in here. Ow. All right, so I've got kind of a base down here. I want to get down as far into the base as I can. I'll tell you, this thing has some pretty sweet blue tips on it. So, let me go ahead and get down here. Now, if you can, go ahead and hold the big part of the coral that you're going to break off. And that way it doesn't fall down. Oh, I'm moving stuff here. Uh-oh. Oh, Lord. My big Passalipora just fell. Oh, God. All right, so real-world problems here. Passalipora has fallen, and I haven't released. Oh, there it comes. This might be a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. Oh, look at that. Perfect. That's a beaut. Right on. Well, that was easy. Now I just got to figure out what I'm going to do with this humongous coral in my hands. Goodness. I guess it was leaning into that. Just goes to show you, everything in here is just kind of, it all is codependent on each other. Oh, God. All right, so a little bit of, was a little bit touch and go there for a minute. That green Passalipora was about to fall into that frog spawn back there, but without even having to really cut anything, whoop, I got this bad boy out of there. And this is only half of what was in there. What's really cool is even in the daylight with the lights back here, you can see the purple tips on it, which is really cool. Now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll get him down in here into the bucket if it'll fit. I guess we're not too worried about it breaking, because if it does, well, we'll just go ahead and break off a little bit because we're gonna have to frag it out anyways. So, why don't we use this guy here, huh? So we got this nice big branch down here. So what I'm gonna do is try to get as close as I can to the other base with it. And man, there it goes. Nice clean break there. If you want to see what the inside of it looks like, just calcium and just skeleton, that's all. So we're just gonna break off a few of the tips that are kind of sticking out of the water. Those are gonna become frags anyways. So might as well get to fragging. All right, that's good for now. So we'll go ahead and get the aeration in there and get the Coral RX in. All right, so now that I've got the aeration in, let's go ahead and add the Coral RX. I'd say this is about 2 gallons of water in here, just by guessing from, you know, this is a 5-gallon bucket. It's about 2/5 full, 2 gallons, right? Coral RX, you should add 4 capfuls per gallon, so we're gonna add 8. Now what I have noticed is that when you do have aeration like this and you add it, it will bubble up quite a bit for just a little while. That'll dissipate though. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, so there it goes. It's gonna bubble up for a little while. And after a minute or so, that'll stop. So you're gonna notice it does smell like a cleaner a little bit. And as you're noticing right now, those bubbles are kind of dissipating, so it's not getting so like soapy, bubbly kind of looking. And what you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna let this go ahead and kind of sit in here for about 8 minutes or so, 8 to 10 minutes. All right, so now we're done dipping the coral and cleaning it up. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go ahead and frag it in the bucket that we dipped in. We're gonna rinse the coral with just some water here that I grabbed from the tank, put it in a couple of cups, and then we're going to glue them as we do that and put them in here. Put them in here, which have the frag racks in them, and that way they won't, you know, mess with each other or anything like that, and they can be easily placed in there without knocking over and breaking the glue or anything like that. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clip off these tips off of here, and I'm going to do it as close to the base as I can, kind of the main structure of the coral. It's a nice one. Oh, that one broke off. That's a freebie. And I reckon these are, these are like 2-inch frags or so of Miami Orchid. I'll probably get like 10 bucks a piece for them. It's a nice chunky one right there. So what you're going to want to go ahead and do, get your frag disc, put a nice dollop of glue on there, don't be stingy with it, and grab one of your frags that you broke off down in the bucket, right? Go ahead and get it in the glue. Sometimes I like to do them sideways like that because that's the top that was growing. When it was growing in the tank, it was growing sideways. So all of this area was exposed to the light, and that's what it's going to be used to. If I stand it on edge, it's not really going to be used to it. So what's going to happen is that it's going to start growing up like this and grow a little colony, which will be nice. And it'll give the most amount of area exposed to the light, which will help that frag grow a lot faster. So instead of going up and down, if that's not the way it was growing in the tank, that's not the way I put it on the frags. So, nice little tip for you. Let me give you guys a tip when you're fragging. You are going to get, unless you're like super good, unless you're like the person that eats chicken wings and doesn't get any on your hands, if you are that person, please stop watching. But if you are that person just like me, you're going to get super glue on your hands. So really important to make sure that you don't super glue your fingers together, but also, here's what's gonna happen. It's gonna dry on your fingers, and over the next day, you can just peel it off. You can also keep a rag close by to wipe it off as you get it on your fingers. But I'll just kind of smear it around as well. So if you get it on your fingers, if it's actually caked up a little bit, it's easier to go ahead and peel off once you get done. I'm gonna be gluing and sticking here for about the next 15 to 20 minutes. So I'm not gonna put you through the pain of watching me do that. I wouldn't expect you to. But a couple of things I wanted you to get out of this video. Number one, it's good to frag your corals, but it's also good to let them grow out too. And number two, fragging isn't as hard as you think it might be. It's as easy as breaking it off and gluing it to some other type of substrate so that you can give it to another reefer and trade it for something else or sell it for a little bit of gain. And finally, I just wanted to give you guys some tips and tricks that you can use when you start to frag your own corals. Hey listen, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you go ahead and hit that big thumbs up. If you have any comments you'd like to leave or any questions or anything like that, go ahead and drop that in the comments below. And as always, if you haven't already subscribed, consider doing so. I've got great videos coming out every Friday that cover a different aspect of this reef, as well as tips and tricks that you guys can use in the hobby and use for your own reefs. Peace!